Hello everyone. Before I continue, stop. Did you watch the previous video yet? Did you see how utterly idiotically we review GT 1 to 5? If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Or else you'll be missing some very important context in this review of GT 6 to 10. Thank you very much. Starting the video off, it's peak. We have finally reached peak. GT 6.
If you want to call it that, sure.
Absolutely. Wait, what did you say?
I said, if you want to call it peak, sure. Don't you remember it's my least favorite? I more or less forgot the reason why it's not my favorite. I just feel like the one thing I remember was that the prologue in chapter 1 is really funny because Tomo's broke and he finally gets money. We love making money here. But I feel like when we get introduced to Belonga Succubus and Aradia, like having their, like knowing what their salvation conditions are and their magic explanations of like Aradia's witch, like the oil stuff and the search radar was cool, but I felt like the magical explanation was drawn out for like the rest of volume for me to have like wanted to enjoy it. That was my initial impression anyway. I felt like the whole Shibuya plot was actually really cool because it's Shibuya and tons of horrible shit happens in Shibuya, because no matter how much I read this volume, I could not stop thinking about Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 because it's in Shibuya. So
oh my god.
I felt like that drawing that parallel made me like the volume, but overall I rank it lower than GT3 despite my Bedhead controversy on that one. But it is good. I remember in my my final thoughts, despite having, making my JJK reference, despite drawn out explanations, we get to see more magic, and this is like we get to see the Bridge Builders Cabal members like more in depth, so we get to see Succubus, Aradia, despite her wanting to kill Toma, and has killed Toma. I need to say that. Fucking stabbing him through like his torso and tearing off pieces of flesh that he fucking dies. Amazing. That was also why I liked this volume, because even though Toma died, he came back, but it was still a shock. I gotta say it again. I threw my phone when I saw that or read that. But it kind of felt like GT6 was like a I could basically summarize GT as a whole, even though we did in the last video, because I see it in my extra on my doc. Devil May Cry series has a mode called Dante Must Die. I feel like GT6 was essentially Toma Must Die mode, and it was really funny.
Every single reference going over my head because I haven't seen any of them or watched them or played it, but hey, I reckon it makes sense.
Your turn.
Yes, I this was somewhat awkward, but hey.
I interrupted you, I know.
No, it's fine. But starting off with the prologue, it was a really nice change of pace when we get to finally see a bit of Japan outside Academy City and not just constantly in Academy City. So that was a really good thing. And then, of course, Komukawa Shiria makes an appearance here out of nowhere. So seeing her was a surprise, and a good surprise, because it's been quite a bit since the last time we've seen her in the volumes. And yeah, the first shock of GT6 is just Toma dies. And then when you start chapter 1, you're just left questioning, did he hallucinate? Like, what happened? No, until much later on. No, he actually died. Which is, Yeah, when it happens twice, it's just like, it already happened once, so the shock value decreases. But then you kind of start to figure out, no, wait, something's wrong, something's going on. Is he actually dying? What's happening? Some magic bullshit? Probably. And it turns out it is. Because as Bedhead pointed out, the magical explanations kind of stretched on longer than they should have. But in my opinion, I didn't really have a problem with that, and didn't really, probably because man, some volumes are really more of an offender for stretched on magical explanations than this volume, so that's where I come from. But I jokingly said it was peak, but I still think this is one of my top favorite volumes in GT, probably. Because we get introduced to the Transcendence, and it's an added mystery. Alice is the head of it. Even more interesting, the cute innocent child is the head of it. You wanna know, how did that happen? And yeah, I'm not really... I'll need a bit to recall more.
Oh.
Do you want to say anything while I try to?
No, yeah, I'm reading my stuff
more.
too. Apparently, remember, like, you know, the witch hunt in Shibuya, really interesting, really cool. Everyone want to hunt Toma down, but since Iridia doesn't know what Toma looked like, they had a vague idea until I forgot how they found Toma. But it was really cool just knowing that, like, everyone was hunting for Toma. But also the triple reload spell is scary dangerous. Like, that shit is awfully, like, well written. I'm like, what the fuck? But also the ending, Anna Sprengel can turn into a film canister. Funny as fuck. Why? Why was that necessary? I don't know, but like, I had a picture in my head of something, and I gotta find it. I can scour the anime depths, but I have an image in my head that I can make a meme out of. But
I see.
But then
oh yeah, how the
but yeah, they
sorry
saved her. Like, what the
how
fuck?
the heck did I forget?
Alistair crying?
No. That's GT7, man.
No, doesn't he cry in the end of in, like, the ending of GT6? I have it written right there.
The ending of GT6 is just straight up this.
There's, like, always extra.
Anna Kingsford. Yeah, Anna Kingsford chose, because there's the subplot here where Alistair is trying to revive Anna Kingsford by reviving her as a cyborg, because she's just that dangerous. So he has to have a kill switch on her if she goes rogue. So that's already a pretty gassed up and powerful person. And then in the end, she just menacingly... like, it's that meme. I think you can pretty easily find it. Like, I'd seen that meme in the Toaru circle where it was just comes alive, turns the antagonist into a film can, leaves. It was the true embodiment of, like, the Chad meme. It felt like a fan service moment in hindsight now that I look back on it, but oh my god, was it such a great fucking moment. Just out of nowhere, bodies the antagonist. That's it. I think that was the start of beginning of my love for Anna Kingsford. Just a straight up hype character, which was set up right, I would have to say, because of the subplot. But yeah, and as Bedhead said, the witch stuff. Did something wrong, sorry. But as Bedhead said, the witch stuff was really interesting because she used her. Because of course, in Kamachi classic fan service, she had to go full on naked in front of a full moon to control the psychology of half a city to kind of hunt down Toma by turning them all into witches because of the desire to fit in, not basically become a sheep in a herd of sheep, like no one standing out. And that attracted more and more and more people, but then because of the stuff that she had done earlier in Shibuya, it also formed an opposition faction, which I don't know if Bologna Succubus was involved in that. Probably. I may be misremembering some of the details, but then you get this two-sided fucking riot in Shibuya where the dressed up common people as witches are fighting the other common people who are just tired of the shit that's been happening since Aradi arrived in Shibuya. So that was a pretty hype moment. And yeah, city is in complete chaos. Toma goes to like find Succubus and Aradia. He already has lost blood, and we now know how he was revived. Basically, it's like an emergency CPR ability, but more powerful. Basically, it can start your heart. It just needs blood. And Succubus uses her own blood to do that. If you're dead. But it has to be like a really recent death, or else it will not work. So that, makes it more believable in the sense of, in the scape of, or the other powers on the magic side. And of course, the classic fan service, how can we forget? But other than that, it was a really good volume. It explored really interesting themes of the persecuted witches, that part of history, and the succubus, who had a spell of absolutely goated spell. It would literally nerf all the toxic gamers that you see online. The feeling, the more happier you feel as soon as she triggers the spell called Mistress, you'll just feel the complete opposite miserable. Yeah, some people would really have that, would really want that. It's toxic online gamers, but anyways, all that aside, really good volume. I'd say a solid, probably a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. And Bedhead, we need to rate all the previous volumes. We didn't do that in the previous episode.
Too bad. I mean, at this point, what is the... We don't have time for that. I mean, I'm just realizing myself, I am a stupid bitch. Why did my notes say he was crying in 6 and it happened in 7? But I remember 7, 8, 9, and 10. Some things. I have my complaints and compliments. But, yeah. I mean, there is no real good time to skim through it because there's a lot to read. But how much do you remember of 7, 8, 9, and 10?
I would have to go like volume by volume because I'm just quickly like skimming through the Bakatsuki thing.
Yeah, I was only skimming through while you were talking to see if I was right or wrong about the crying scene. I was really wrong.
But before we continue, I think it should be good to like rate every single GT volume so far that we've reviewed. So 1 to 6.
I have my tier list. I have my tier list. You saw the intro. But my tier list hasn't changed at all.
Okay, but still, overall rating, like out of 10.
Oh, out of 10?
Yes.
Well, I'm scared to do number ratings. That's why I did the tier list. If I had to do number ratings, that's like a scary thought.
Nah. You don't get to be a coward.
Bro. I guess
I'll go ahead for you. You can take some time to decide how controversial you want to make this while I go ahead with mine. Starting off with GT1, a really good introduction. Didn't really think... I didn't really have any problems with it, so I'd rated a solid, going off of my memory and what I remember, I rated a solid 7.5. GT2, that was a really interesting one, and the first time that... Not the first time, but like, it was really interesting to see Misaka and Miski team up, and all the stuff that happened there, and the scene with the doctor, that hit me. I'd have to say, it's also a solid... This is gonna sound like a broken record, but what do I like more? GT1, the Christmas celebration, all the wholesome scenes in that, or GT2? I think... Okay, so for me, GT1 and 2 are around the same level. So I would also give it 7.5. Now on to GT3, which was basically, you know, people glazing the frick out of GT3, and I don't glaze it that hard, but I still think it was really good. So it gets a respectable 8.5 out of me. Then GT4, of course, it was on a bit of a downtime, and some of the stuff, like a bit of the stuff felt plot convenience because of often it's just guessing things. So that was interesting, and it had stuff going for it. I just found some of the other volumes more interesting, so I'd give it, still, it's not that far behind, so I'd give it a solid 7. And coming on to GT5, oh, that was a really, really nice volume. Probably because I was so interested in Alice, the post-handcuff part, and also being introduced to her power, which is pretty absurd, a little convoluted and crazy. Just the way I like powers. But yeah, I'd have to say, I think for me, GT5 is also on the same level of GT3. So around about 8.5, but not sure on this final rating yet. And GT6, hey, we go outside Academy City. This was also really interesting, but not as good as I would say GT3 and 5, so 8. Your list, sir, please.
I would say, because I was thinking about giving like how like no book's a failing book. It's like my taste in music. There are no perfect songs and no like bad songs, but I realized I had given anime 10 out of 10s, even though they have their flaws. So I guess I can't really complain when I do that. But I would say for like GT1, because of its introduction and starting this, this challenge, so it could have really made it or break it, regardless of how much I enjoyed it. I probably still would have continued on regardless, but probably at a much slower pace than I would have liked. But because I really did enjoy it, really great volume, I want to give it a solid 9. It did good.
GT1.
Yeah. And you know, I'm gonna jump ahead because 2 and 4 had so many connections to it. I have to give them a tab. Just for me. 2 and 4.
Alright.
I am gonna never stop blaming 2 and 4 to how much I love them. GT3. So like I just said, no book's a failing book. I cannot list like every like anime that I didn't enjoy watching like a 5 or lower, because technically I like seeing it animated, so it's already more than a 5, like 1, 2, or 3. It's already higher than that. But I'm gonna just I'm gonna like just say to a anime I finished watching like a month ago, Assassin's Pride. I know nothing about it. I saw the intro years ago, and it's really stuck to my head. And I finally wanted to watch all 12 episodes. It was actually really disappointing. And for all the, you know, it was a disappointing adaptation because it didn't make sense. Like, narrative build-up didn't really, it jumped everywhere. It didn't really give much world building. Pacing felt really, really quick than normal, and it just threw me off for every episode. But even for what it's worth, Assassin's Pride gets a 6. GT3, I know I have my problems. 7 and higher is like stuff I really enjoyed. I enjoyed parts of GT3, but it's not like one I can try coming back to, nor have I finished rereading it. So for all my fairness, I'm giving GT3 a 6.5. I'm being kind because 7 and higher is, you know, it means something to me that I would like to revisit, and I can't finish that damn book. I am sorry.
Alright, fair enough.
I apologize.
No, fair enough.
Skipping 4, I already said my things on 4. GT5, mind fuck of a volume. God, it's amazing. I love GT5 so much.
Of course.
I probably have to reflect my tier list. Probably gonna put it at a solid 9. GT5. GT6.
Let's go.
GT6, you know, my least favorite. It's not a 5, but I'm gonna put it at a solid 6. It's just below 3, and it's like that on my tier list. It's literally 6, 3. I don't know how else to reflect that. 7, really fucking funny. I'm gonna put that at a nice 8.5. I don't know why though.
Gotcha.
I forget why I put it there, but it's really good.
It's a lot of wholesome. It's a lot of wholesome, some wholesome and really fucking, really funny. Really funny scenes involving Aradia, and basically giving her more screen time, more time to develop as a character of the general roster. So yeah. She basically shined in this volume, Aradia. And that's why many people also love it.
It was funny. Well, I'm basically harping on the prologue in chapter 1. Everyone just mistreated her so badly. I can't stop talking about it.
Of course.
I'm trying to remember what about GT7, but I don't know. Probably like meeting, because not in GT7 they like meet HT, what's his face, and they go to the consulate in Academy City. And just all that the conflict, because like Alice didn't know that they wanted to kill him, and so she got mad, and so everyone fought. That was really cool, but I don't remember much to what else though. I feel like all that conflict kind of really flew over my head for whatever reason. I'm gonna keep going. GT8. I'm dubbing it Toma on the Run because of what happened in the end of 7. But I'm calling it that specifically as a reference to Ranger Reject because there were a few chapters called Foot Soldier on the Run. It literally is Toma on the Run.
Okay. Makes sense. Alright.
GTA, I would also probably give it a solid 8.5. I think it's going in between 8 to 9. I liked a lot of, we get to see more of Anna as so this type of humanization of the overarching villain of this GT story, not cringe at all. It was not boring. It's not like, oh, that's a shonen thing. It's standard to do that. It wasn't boring. We got to connect with Anna, and I felt that
of course.
really nice. And then Aradia started to be more open as well, building off to building off of 7. And isn't the flying tank scene GT8 as well?
Yes.
Didn't she do that? That was awesome, by the way. I have to say that. GT9, really great volume, solid 9. Probably 9.5. I don't know. It goes in between 9 and 9.5. Because CRC,
Ooh.
that fucker, strong, scary as fuck until we realize who he really is. But I felt like this was a really great cooperation of like Academy City and the members of the Bridge Builders Cabal who sided with Homa to fight CRC. So it's a really good alliance of science and magic combining this big bad of magic. It was really nice to see. And then we get that sick ass art of Toma and Alistair. Woo!
Let's fucking go.
That shit was amazing. So that's why GT9 is fucking awesome. It doesn't top 2, that's for damn sure. But it's right there. I know on the tier list, 9 is above 4, but this volume was really good too. On a number scaling, it's great. 9.5, solid.
Okay.
GT10, I'm gonna put at a solid 8. It's not 7 worthy, but it's not it's not 9 and up worthy. Just because of what we discussed last time of the overemphasis on Toma dying till he actually does. It still hits really hard, but it did not need to overemphasize it as much as it did going up to it. Because, like I said before, from GT2 onwards, somewhere in every volume there is a foreshadow to like 10, but then 10 keeps building up and up and up like every chapter until he actually does bite the fucking dust. And I'm like, I didn't really need all that. Calm down. Despite already knowing he was gonna die, I still didn't want that because the volume still kind of blatantly tells you, oh, he's gonna die sometime in this volume. So
yeah.
it's kind of like telling you already before you get there. So that's why I don't want to put it like lower because I partly enjoyed that, but I didn't because it got really boring. Like probably in the prologue in the first chapter, but then in chapters 2, 3, and like the end of 4, I'm like, he's dead. You don't need to do this anymore. GT11, 11 out of 10. I'll have to read it. It's already great.
Of course. Sorry, I'll be right back.
No! Seeing as how I went from GT1 to 11, and we haven't really talked 7 through 10, but like, is there anything you want to talk about 7 through 10? Because we both don't remember much about it, much to the fandom's anger. I can already feel it.
True.
But is there anything you want to comment on 7 through 10?
Yes, so as you just went ahead without even discussing the volumes much and divulge your ratings, I will proceed to do the same. As we are 2 peas in a pod. So, GT7. A really enjoyable volume because of the amount of slice of life that was in it, but how it also leads up to the climax of the volume, I should say. And Toma's already in HT Trismegistus's maybe future words, or maybe he said it in this volume. Toma has already started infecting people with the Kamijo disease. Now that's a reference to OT, if you know what I'm saying.
The harem thing?
Okay, yeah, now I remember. It's he's already starting influencing the Kamijo faction.
Ah, I figured.
Yeah,
I
if you
thought it
watched
was...
the anime or read the OT books, you know what I'm referring to. Talking a bit more about GT7 and why I liked it so much. Alice being attached to Toma because of Anna Sprengel's bit of manipulation and suggestion. Yeah, that was really interesting to see. And Kamijo standing up to Alice, along with the fact that this is the first time that you have probably seen Kamijo's arm gets cut off, and then he has to fight that griffin. He just goes full on death metal, inserts his arm, cut off arm in the mouth. I think was it his arm or a cut off arm? I don't remember. However, that happened, and then just blasts the freaking griffin from the inside out. That was gory. And I think you forgot that happened.
No, I actually remember the griffin when you mentioned it. I think it was the way Kamachi wrote everything, which is what led to me having a really hard time visualizing everything. I'm a very bad visualizer. I need manga.
You need pictures.
I do need pictures. I started out as a manga only, to which the manga will never finish OT. I'm gonna die first before before we ever get a confirmed manga adaptation for NT.
Oh yeah, that's. I was about to change that statement, but no, you said it. That's truth. That's basically truth.
If any volume is lower than it should be, it's usually because I have a really hard time visualizing. But don't harp on me for 3 and 6 because that's just a me taste, really. But usually it's Kamachi's way of describing stuff that I am just a very horrible visualizer that I can never seem to properly enjoy what I'm trying to read. I kind of be like, oh yeah, this happened, and I'm gonna ignore everything and just be like, oh, Toma punched someone finally. But that's important.
Yeah, this happened. I forgot all about it, but the one thing I remember is Toma broke someone's illusion. That was Pete.
Always.
Yeah, there was also in GT7 the between the line stuff. People were theorizing, oh, is this about what's it called, Aradia? Inside her backstory, and then in between the lines 2 or 3, people started, wait, is it Alice? And then at the last between the lines, we find out, no, it's Anna Sprengel's backstory, which was kind of wild to consider. So that's what it was actually hinting at. The classic Kamachi plot twist in the way he writes it. And of course all the stuff that happens and the freaking fight with Alice at the end. That's probably the most exciting part of this volume. But I do think the build-up was really good, from the overall goofy prologue in chapter 1 to how everything happens and turns out.
Yes.
So it gets a solid, and a really solid, actually, 9 out of me for GT.
Oh, nice.
7. And of course, the last scene. Oh. You know, after reading NT, that hit way harder than I thought it would have. And of course, Anna being the emoji queen. I think that's also just one of the things that I really love about Anna Kingsford.
Simp.
On to GT8. I'll be pointing things out and randomly discussing stuff as I scroll through the Bakatsuki link for this volume. Oh yeah, GT8. Yeah, this is where the absolute pinnacle of let's just cuck the fans starts to happen with the When people first read the prologue, like half of the prologue at least, or something like that, people were like, "Oh wait, what?" When the GT 8 preview came out, oh wait, Anna Kingsford is fighting Ivos? What? People were starting to lose their mind, and then starting chapter 1, nothing happens. Nothing comes out of it. It was off-screened. I think it was also one of Aeon's main complaint about this volume, and I agree with him.
I forgot the clone thing happened. That freaked me out really badly.
What? The GTA is 7.
What? Oh shit. Peeking at the wrong illustrations.
In GT7, I forgot to mention that it starts off as like Kuroko using magic to basically persecute Misaka, and then it turns out it was a fucking TV show.
Oh,
and
that.
City's doing this too.
I remember that. I actually didn't like that much. It was meh.
Yeah, I really liked it because it also fits in the overall narrative, because when the sisters got revealed, Academy City is somehow trying to salvage his reputation, salvage its own reputation by airing this on, and like kind of making it seem like nothing's really happening all that much, and trying to move away from the image of this being a really dark and fucked up city that some people may have thought about because of the sisters' existence. And that's where Toma gets in, and we get more of the sister lore, and Misaka, the will of the Misaka network, saying "fuck you" to
I love that. I love that so bad.
That was great comedy.
I already knew it was Will, despite not understanding it was Will. I kind of blame IF for that.
You did play that game. I didn't touch it.
You didn't touch IF at all?
I didn't get into gacha games fast enough.
Oh. Tragic. It was fun while it lasted.
I found HSR first. Yeah, it was. Yeah, for me, I found HSR first, then became a gamer of that, and then after a bit of time I realized, oh, I really like this sort of gacha game. Maybe I can enjoy Toaru Imaginary Fest. Then I forget about it, and then when I remember it again, I get the announcement, oh, it's shutting down. Well, that's sad. Anyways, moving on from the depressing stuff that had to happen on the 20th anniversary. GT8, the first part of getting that fight off screen, I'm like, I really would have liked to see it on screen, but makes sense for the build-up that Kamachi was going for. So that already deducts like a few points. It's just in the hype category. And of course, seeing Anna being humanized as you raised the point was really great, because weirdly enough, Toaru, the entire franchise, at least in the light novels, in Index, is where you get some... It's where you get, like, you'll get villains, they'll have their backstories and attempt at humanization, where they think they're doing the right thing for this reason that they believe to be how some things or certain things are happening in the world or have happened to them. So it's never really, oh, this is just a truly evil character. It's never like that. You at least get to see more of the villain's perspective for most of the villains. And the really rare ones are just like, I'm evil because I'm evil. I just like evil shit. So that's why GT5's Kihara Hasu was refreshing, even though he was a twist villain at the end. So it was probably the ending of GT5 that also a solid 9 when I feel like I should have. So that takes off like half a point for me. Or maybe even more than that, who knows. But anyways, so this is the stuff I really like. Toaru, getting to my core thing that I wanted to say. And of course, they have to reiterate so many freaking times. It's martial law. Do you know what martial law means? It's martial law. Like, Komachi reiterated that about 5 to 10 times in the volume, I feel like. We get it, Komachi. It's martial law. We get it, nobody's gonna be moving out. And of course, the fan service scene with Aradia and a sprinkle.
I forgot that happened. Deadass.
And the
Whiplash going back at the illustrations.
Oh, true. And the fuck. And just I just want to read it out loud because of how funny this was. In what she called her proper form, she grinned down at him. So he woke up from his whatever he was doing. But I have no use for a horny king, fool. And she stepped on the bastard's face. Komachi really be targeting a certain demographic, huh? God damn it. And then there was the other line of when Toma was thinking, oh, why is Anna being so nice to me? Is she in love with me? Wait, that doesn't make sense. And then she just blankly stares at him and blankly looks at him and says, do I need to bite your dick off, fool? Ah, I love it. Love it because of all the funny shit that happened here. It was more of a build-up volume than anything, so not really much of climax happened here, other than the end and CRC being revived, because then we know, oh, and there's the twist, the middle twist. Oh? Is it... Wait, who's coming back? When they get to the... When they get to the building where Anna stored her information on about the bridge builder's plan. So it's like, Christ, like, Thomas trying to read the English and he's like, Christ? And then this was the moment where a lot of people just got thrown off. What the fuck? Jesus Christ is coming along?
I got thrown off too, I'm not gonna lie. But I already knew, like, there's no way.
Because people have been, like, not gonna lie, people have been wanting to just see that, like, Jesus become a thing. Just Jesus coming back, casually saying hello to Toma. That would just be literally because of the amount of hype behind Jesus. It would be one of the peaks, the absolute peaks, dare I say, of Toaru if that happens. But yeah, then we get the twist villain. It's actually CRC, Christian Rosenkreuz. Which is believed to be in Legends, in Rosicrucian Legends, a reincarnation of Jesus. So that was really interesting. Anyways, moving along in the volume. A overall rating, which I hadn't before. Of course, Mood Thieves. Mood Thieves being, like, humanized in her own standards. Like, she punishes. If she has to punish someone, she'll punish it. She'll make sure that person gets punished, but for the sake of protecting the common people. And she doesn't look down on them. Like, I am this powerful person, so I'm, like, above everyone. She doesn't have that sort of feeling. She's just like, no, I protect people, because that's what my persona wants me to do. And I kind of had that lingering thing in my real life when I didn't cosplay and became Mud Thieves. So probably why I started cosplaying Mud Thieves. It's kind of interesting when you connect those dots of how, because of maybe some fleeting feelings or maybe a bit of a belief, that's how they came to the Bridge Builders Cabal, went through the training and selection process and became those characters. And that's what we get in GT8, because it just blasts us with double Aradia, What? Everybody loses their shit.
I did, certainly.
At the time. And then, of course, just saying, but Thebes, Ultra Form. If you don't know what I'm referencing, oh boy. I'd say one of the respected gacha games, according to me, whose players I think are still the best gacha gamers there could ever be, and better than every other gacha gamer ever conceived in the history of gacha games, Battle Cat players. Yes, I'm calling the fourth forms of every transcendent ultra forms because I can, and that's a reference, damn it. I'm a nerd.
I thought you were doing a Pokemon reference, not gonna lie.
Nah, I'm more of a person who, if he's referencing something, it's probably a niche thing instead of the big thing that everyone's thinking about.
Well, I thought Ultra Beasts. I'm not sure how many people remember Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon.
I heard about that, but I don't know what that is.
Damn, that's tragic. Granted, I never played the games myself, but I remember liking the Ultra Beast theme.
Okay. Beyond Optimism Catastrophe. Ah, this is where CRC came about, and he did his whole humanity speech, how humanity doesn't deserve what it's going through.
I remember preaching the fuck out of that. I remember messaging you, I'm like, yes! Yes! That was absolute cinema. Don't you remember that conversation?
Yes, I do.
I believe in CRC supremacy.
I believe in Anna Kingsford supremacy. And yes, then we get brutality of CRC. He just crushes the skull of Bucky. Oh, that was a shock and a half. Yeah, nothing else. An innocent child just got her skull crushed. How could you? How could you, CRC?
I laughed, actually. I gotta say, I laughed at that.
Unironically?
No, for real. I deadass laughed at that. It reminded me of the scene in Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 where Amanai got shot by Toji. Now, that shit was hilarious. I'm sorry, but oh my god. I gasped for half a second and began laughing my ass off for like 2 minutes. So I'm just like, Skull Crush, yes sir. I clapped for him. That's how much I believe in CRC supremacy.
My overall rating for GT8, now that I've gone back, it was a really solid volume. I think it can come in the ranks of GT, like just below GT5 and GT3. So I'd have to say a solid 8.75. Yes, we go in decimals with this one. So my tier list is looking like, at the top it's GT7, followed by GT3 and 5, then GT8, then GT1 and 2, and then GT4. Anyways, we get on to the other volume, as you said, Tom on the Run. Ooh, for this volume, first of all, I'm going to point out the funny stuff. So, we get the absolute confrontation between freaking between the succubus and Shoko. when both of them are discussing the type that Toma really likes. And it makes it funnier when it's a pretty popular theory that, like, at least quite a number of people I think I've seen believe in the theory, oh, why did Shihoko grew that way? Well, it's because of Toma's preference of a One-san dome manager. So she unconsciously catered to his preferences. don't really see what would be wrong with it, but I don't personally believe in it, I'd say. But I could say it working out, just saying, and how she just makes fun. Oh, ironically, like, no, legitimately, I'm just saying it for your own good. You're too young right now.
Who?
Shoko.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because Thomas' preference is that Oni-san don't manager.
That's right.
Yes.
I felt that a little unnecessary, but it was
that's...
I felt
this is my main shipping point for going off in a complete off track. This is my main shipping point for Anakin Spirit also. Because Thomas stated it when he was in the white space with Anna at the end of GT10. Damn, she looks just about my type.
I feel like if you remember the conversation, it was probably GT9 where I felt like you mentioned Misaki and belong to Succubus. I feel like it was either 9 or some other volume where I understood why the inclusion of those characters, Misaki and Misaki, felt random as hell. It was appropriate, I guess, in that struggle in 9, but I'm like, I think the way Kamachi inserted them just felt so random.
Yeah, it was GT9.
It was 9? Okay, yeah. I'm just like, why did he do it this way? I'm just like, no. I mean, I'm happy to have them there, but, you know, they don't have to be there all the time.
Exactly. Bro, the absolute devastation that we got in terms of... I think I cried a little in terms of the scene where Toma is just on his knees holding on to Heaven Chancellor's coat, just absolutely begging him to, like, save Anna Sprengel. And then we get one of the coldest lines. Where was that scene? Wait, let me remember. What page was it? Think about this as deeply as you want. There's no point in endlessly worrying yourself when it isn't necessary. I am a doctor, so you don't need to find any lengthy justification. You only need to speak 2 simple words. Save her. Man, just makes me respect Heaven Chancellor even more. Like,
agreed.
This is a character. I gotta admit, it hit me pretty hard when I first read it. That scene was absolutely amazing. For sure. And then in between the lines, you get the... you get the freaking... Mina Mathers and Dion Fortune running around in Germany trying to discover the origins of Christian Rosenkreuz and how they can counter it. This was a fun though to like read about. So yeah. Chapter 2, Christian Rosenkreuz just... I think it was it chapter 1? I think it was chapter 1, right? Where he was just going around in Academy City, going around town, just experiencing stuff. Like he pulled on the gacha machine, the ones that they have in Japan.
You can probably find that real quick.
For a random toy. Yeah. He played like in those baseball courts, like indoor baseball courts. He scored like the highest points every single time he hit the ball, and he basically tried all the fun things that he could. It seemed like a villain who just didn't care. He's just gonna go on his own flow, and he felt pretty fucking refreshing when there was a fucking dichotomy between his what he said in GT at the end of GT8 and what the hell he was doing in GT9. Bro is just out here doing random activities because he's just that bored and waiting for everyone to just come and get him. Slowly moving towards the hospital. Of course, we get the Transcendence being jealous thing. Toma compliments Muktibs, and the three transcendence in the back. Mary.
Peak. Meet the best girl.
Of course, you'll never stop with being best girl.
But you reminded me, because I can't find the part you're talking about. I'll probably skim you too quick. But I do remember complaining that we see like a bunch more other transcendents fighting against the ones that sided with Homa, and it just felt like a lot of really quick introductions and magic, like, you know, I'm this person, I can do this, and then they fight. And I felt that
was
to be
GT10.
yeah, we're talking about 10.
We're talking about 9.
Oh fuck! My bad. I'm not listening. I'm skimming. My bad. I'll shift that to a different point.
Okay. But yes, nice and wholesome moments. Good old Marion. I just forgot her name for a bit. But yes, this was and the crazy callback that was fucking Academy City's particle accelerator, which accelerator, that sounds funny, but accelerator used to target CRC, basically pulling out a last trump card to target him, and it's still not working. That was just added to the whole world building of Toaru, I must say. And of course, then we get that die-hard scene where it's like, he's really close. Alistair has already fought. Alistair versus CRC was pretty hype, not gonna lie. But Alistair has already fought CRC. There's no turning back. Bro just calls Misaka. He's just like, oh wait, what the fuck? I literally have no chance to clear this. But because he's been pushed to the limit, it's just like, Misaka, shoot the coin in that window where he's standing. And she doesn't know what he's talking about, so she quickly shoots it. Bro just only needed that right hand gone. You know the amount of hype? Because some people were saying, oh, why couldn't he do that? Like, why couldn't he have his arm cut off and just solo the enemy then? Do you realize how idiotic that sounds? But him doing that, because he had no other choice, every last defense line was basically destroyed. And this was kind of the act where he is like, I have given up on trying to reason out with CRC because I prioritize Anna Sprangel's life more at this moment, and you have pushed me in all the wrong ways till now. This was basically him giving up on basically saving, as he would say, on everyone. Which would come to be a pretty important point in GT10. The amount of hype, 20 years of build-up, almost 20 years of build-up, since the series started for this. I said it at that time I was reading, and I'll say it again. This is one of the peaks of Toaru that I don't see much else surpassing. Absolutely. And the only thing that's going to surpass this is future Toma actually explaining all his abilities and the invisible thing. And also Dragon King. Oh, it only lasted for 10 minutes because he was still losing blood. So he got unconscious. But if he had been allowed to go even further and given to sort of like his temptation, because his shadow was flickering, so it almost felt like his existence was being tampered with by using this power. So it just implies a whole lot of stuff that I don't want to get into because it'll turn into a huge ranting session. But the absolute amount of time he was just absolutely destroying CRC, that out of nowhere bro just gets his head exploded. And how Komachi used the analogy of how when a lizard loses his tail, it can regrow a new one. By the power of the Dragon King, bro just grows a new head. Yeah, I've noticed this. Komachi just has a distinct ability of writing these gory scenes in a really, really good way. So I respect him for that. And I think that's enough glazing on that scene for now. As you said, such a hype scene. Toma with his Dragon King. And then Alistair just absolutely punching him. And then sending him to the sky like a fucking Team Rocket outro. Oh, that was amazing. And of course, Index and Alternus are trying to figure out, okay, what to do there. They get there. And Anna comes alive. Because, of course, we knew that... Not Anna, sorry. Alice comes alive because, of course, we knew she wasn't going to die. That was pretty simple. But now, basically, headless Alice has gone rogue. And we don't know what's going to happen. Pretty good cliffhanger to end on. And that's it for GT9. This is a solid, an absolute solid, I think I have to say, 8.25. Moving on to the final volume, just in time, I have to say. Now this, because of how much I enjoyed it, my extreme recency bias, and how much we love Toma, and also all the other characters, as you all probably know, on my top list. This is, in my opinion, the biggest peak of the Genesis Testament roster. And dare I say, and I've already declared this for everyone to hear on Twitter, this was even better than NT9, the best volume that has come out of this entire franchise. And I'm of that opinion. Some people are just gonna flame the heck out of me. Well, some of the people also do agree. Hey, everyone's bound to have their own opinion, and this is mine. Of course, Bedhead being the one who's just like, yeah, it's a... So, to finally tackle your criticism of the volume, my first thing is they got a whole entire separate illustration, which is really rare for a group that only appears in one volume, because this is technically fleshing out the Bridge Builders Cabal, because there are way more members than the ones siding with Toma, and then just having pretty detailed abilities and power explained.
Way too
First of all, it's cited for like... That may have felt like it, and I do agree there, but in its defense, Komachi does the classic, oh, let's switch out when a scene is reaching its climax. But also, this is a quick introduction that's probably going to come into play in GT12 from what I theorize when he comes back alive. Toma. They are going to be used later on. They're not just going to be a one-off villain with all their abilities explained with having a specific spot in the colored illustrations, and that's pretty rare, and also being inserted into it. So I think that seed served its purpose, and I don't really have any complaints for it.
I would have liked more build-up, like making them vague and then them showing up maybe as a threat, but like to just show up, explain, and then fight all in like one chapter or like 1.5 chapters felt like way too much information.
I do agree. Komachi's style of writing at many points of time in his magical explanations around the magic side feels way too much information, but kind of just have to say you get a bit used to it. But yeah, this was a bit of a dump on the heavier side. I would agree there. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. And that scene also became a sign of how Alice's influence was distorting the world. So, furthermore, in its defense, it also ends up serving its purpose way more. So, in my opinion, it's a perfectly fine. That scene doesn't need to be removed. That's my final opinion.
I never said remove. I'm just like, I wish it could have been. Well, I guess it did say remove. I just felt like either he could have.
He probably could have, but in the way this whole volume was written, I think it will need a half rewrite because of how this volume was structured and written. So he didn't really have that much time to focus on the new villains when he's trying to prove one moment. But he's probably trying to be like, let's just introduce him here. So it was like a quick, oh, there's this part that I need to be filled up, and also it'll be relevant to the plot. But in the way I've built up this volume, yeah, I can just do this. But I do agree. If it would have been better integrated, it would have felt much natural. That's not a word. It would have felt much more natural. And not such an information dump.
Yeah.
Because the entire prologue just starts with, referencing every back to what Alice, I should say. No, okay, now I remember. The prologue was just the first bit of prologue was just referencing all the previous volumes to get you kind of an idea, okay, how much it got built up. And then Alphanus escapes. Then we get the absolute coldest scene in all of history, where the Calico Cat that Toma and Index have raised just comes out, saves Alphanus from all the cats, wild male cats, by the way, wild male adult cats. Just fights off all of them. And Alphanus of peak, absolute peak. One of the many reasons why I love this volume.
Sphinx needs more screen time.
But since I've been talking, so true.
Sphinx
but since I've been ranting off for so long, I think I will give you the chance. True. I'll give you the chance to do your own review of GT10 first, and then I'll follow up with my rant.
Well, how much have I said before in the past of GT10? I mean, I interjected here and there, so I feel like there has been nothing new on my end to say on GT10, because I already jumped here and there from this video and the last. But you are making me remember that happened. Very funny. I also remember Accelerator got like disabled for a little bit. I feel like that was really funny.
Man, the Accelerator fanboys were upset.
I'm just like, yeah, fuck the Accelerator. I love him, but that was just hilarious. But it was also, it was nice seeing, like, Alice and Anna Sprengel go like head to head, figuratively and literally in an illustration.
Yep.
But
yep.
GT10, I think this one also suffers from the Kamachi overwriting like everything, and I can visualize it. But from what I gather, it's a really strong fight for like everyone, for Toma and him trying to reach Alice, and everyone just trying to hold the fort.
Yep.
But it's like I've been saying, GT10, great volume, but the overemphasis of Toma's death, I think, is the biggest hurt point of the whole volume, which is why I couldn't really, vibe with it as much as it did. Still, I'm gonna keep saying, to have that confirmed sentence that he died still hits hard, and the illustration doesn't make it better. Made me shed a tear, but I don't want to be told every second of every like chapter or page that he's gonna die, because every volume has done that so far. But I probably sound like a broken record at this point, so give your final thoughts.
Okay. Before I give my final thoughts, after reviewing like 6 to 9, I think it's more of a hurt point of like the build-up that happened, and because of the tendencies of GT just being a fake out and testament, that also hurt it more. Because death before this, I was like, yeah, it's death, but it takes a bit of the impact of a character's death away when you're just at the start of what was it? Yeah, at the start of GT9, Anna Kingsford just gets slashed in two. Oh yeah, she gets revived at the end of GT9. And also the Toma dying many times and then Mary resurrecting him. That's the point where, in my sort of interpretation of the overemphasis, it's a bit on the side I wouldn't like, but I don't really have much problem with it in this specific volume. But what I do have a bit more problem with is how death gets trivialized in the context of Fake Out Testament. And when you place such a heavy emphasis on death in the last volume where the character actually dies, it doesn't deliver on that impact. So my hurt point for it is like, it should have been written in a way in the previous volumes that it built up pretty naturally and shouldn't have trivialized death so much. It almost feels like a bit at times. Which is also why I didn't really rate all the volumes of GT, where this was the point after GT5 that higher. But finally getting the payoff, it was amazing. Yeah, and that rant aside, absolutely lovely how chapter 1 starts with Toma waking up and a Springle freaking becomes goes into her second form, crawls onto the bed, gives him a freaking gives him a lap rest, and then hangs. And that sounds way more sus than what actually happens. But it really, really looks that way. That was just a funny scene, like a really funny scene. And then they're just wrestling on the fucking bed. With Anna's upper part resting on Toma's head. Classic Kamachi funny fan service. At least it wasn't unnecessary fan service. So it kind of sets you up with the expectations of, this is just gonna be a lighthearted moment for the first half. It is about to get wild in the second half, but still, it gives you a full sense of security in that first chapter by moving things along. And then how much it hits and changes, we already know that. Influence. Then we get the other funny scene before I talk about that. Alistair is legit just breaking down and crying because Anna Kingsford basically died. Lo and behold, she's back, comes around, and Nokun is just like, shit, this isn't good. So when she says hello, Alistair goes just full on fucking tsundere. Jesus, the magician down, and fires all the forbidden spells that he knows. And with the added comedy of like when she realizes what's gonna happen. Like he was preparing to fire the spells. Should I run away now? I just love all the comedic moments that were in this volume. Alright, moving on to more of the important stuff. The build-up was really nice, with Anna's Kingsford dropping hints here and there. An Accelerator being on a fucking Zoom meeting with Alistair and Mina Mathers is really wild considering what happens in OT and also NT. I just never thought I'd see the day. And of course, the Accelerator bodied scene. Later in Chapter 3, there's an explanation. It was because of Alice's influence that HT Trismegistus even managed to get this close. And people take this scene a little too literally without recontextualizing it with Chapter 3. And that's my opinion. But still, it was funny to see Accelerator get bodied. This was a part of Chapter 2, and this was setting up... Yeah, this was basically setting up with... What was it? I think it was at the end of Chapter 2, where Toma has to find Alice. He decides, oh, it must be the classroom. And then in Part 10, I remember this specifically as I'm looking through this. Oh, the absolute unnerviness of him going through the classroom. And also it's like a sort of weird psychological horror vibe that he went with. The atmosphere was just on point for this scene. It actually creeped me out and gave me goosebumps like once or twice. And just having Alice being like, party popper, yay, you made it! And then just having the slow realization, oh, I am going to go on my death. Where she prophesies that where she prophesies that if she doesn't use her power, he's gonna die. In a roundabout way. It's a crazy callback, but yes, the overemphasis on death took away from the impact, but still, it was quite impactful. And Chapter 3, this is where the shit really starts hitting the fan. Starting off with, of course, Chapter 3 being the introduction to the other bridge builders cabal. And Anna Kingsford giving a pep talk to Alistair. And what was it? What was the other thing I'm forgetting? This is another scene to emphasize, oh yeah, he's gonna die. And him finally now catching up, oh wait, I am gonna die. This is not good. And this was also a hype moment where all of Alice's creations just came out in the school. And Kingsford gets off screen, but understandable. Fights the giant cat. What's the cat's name in Alice in Wonderland? I forgot. But still. That was hype, and the overall fight, the overall fight and the backstory of Alice just ties everything in and makes it truly peak for me. And of course, followed by the heartbreaking scene. So, now that I've ranted on for that long, thing that we discussed before discussing the ending, what happens with Toma. What did you think of Alice's backstory, since I've ranted on a little too much? Bedhead.
I forgot everything about it. The only thing that if you can fact check me if I'm wrong, but didn't it wasn't she made from a bunch of bodies or something like that? I remember something about like blood and bodies. Like her creation specifically.
Okay.
That's like all I remember because it was haunting the way that was described. But I don't exactly remember. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So before we dive into the fight, yes, I can. I legitimately explain it to you right now. Right. So there was an earlier subplot where Accelerator, Alistair, and Mina Mathers were trying to figure out the origin of Alice under the Bible, how she came to be, what's her connection to Alistair. Because in GT5, she mentions something really specific, which sounds like Kabbalah. And Alistair is also most well known for his work on Kabbalah and being the. This is basically background information, but being the. What's it called? The origin of the Western magical system that everybody uses. This is anti-background information, and I don't think it spoils anything. So this is why I told you, just for added context. So they are trying to figure that out, and then after quite some time, they figure. I don't think they figured out. I forgot what actually ends up happening with that plot, but it does tie into this. So her entire backstory is this: a supposed teacher of Aleister Crowley, because when his fame was getting really interacting with that many people around him, but some people wanted to take advantage of that. So basically what happened was someone, so canonically, someone wrote the Alice in Wonderland, and then the supposed teacher of Aleister Crowley got a random girl, experimented on her, like human experimentation to the extreme, morphed her into the exact image of Alice in Alice in Wonderland for a magical ceremony. Timeline when he was performing these experimentations, she could have been anywhere from 21 to fucking 60. And through that brutal experimentation, he basically also made her have that sort of personality, the childish personality, to fit the Alice in Wonderland. He was trying to accomplish some goal, but at the end, when she was complete, she gone berserk, because that's a really insane thing to do. And it was offhandedly mentioned that he was killed, but I don't believe that, and that's gonna come back and be a plot point in the future concerning, like, looking at Kamachi's records. So yeah, that's her backstory.
Yeah, that shit's fucked
and she
up.
basically turned into an entire animal. Yeah. And because of going through this experimentation, she basically turned into an animal, attacking people on instinct and stuff like that. And that's how first H.G. Trismegistus discovered her as a wild animal. And from there, I think H.G. Trismegistus also gets a shine in this volume because, of course, he was responsible for the CRC resurrection and the plan, and his common sense that he was also insisting on at the start of GT10, but he changes his actions when he truly sees the savior that the entire Bridge Builders Cabal is looking for, because not everyone's salvation condition can be met, is actually Kamijo Towa, not the fraud CRC. So he finally makes up his mind on his alliance, and he really, despite the volume calling him a lolicon, the other members of the Bridge Builders Cabal, he really just wanted to care for Alice, but Alice never really looked his way. And that's why he was doing everything. Just having that background context, and then having the even more shocking, brutal context of when Alice was gonna fight, she just basically split open her own head, and a grown-out BDSM bondage Alice comes out. Now a grown-up woman with animalistic hair and tendencies and sharp as nails, ready to just attack anything. yeah, that form of Alice came out, and then the fight happened. So yeah, that's a lot to take in. And this is also why she's one of my favorite characters. Fucked up backstory, how she's utilized, and the relevance to the plot. Those are my three things. So, do you still dislike Alice?
Yeah. I'm more in case indifferent, but if it makes people mad, I will still say I don't like Alice. I like her mystery more than understanding, but to know that shit that fucked up shit happened is more in case you pity her and more in the case of I hate whoever did that to her. But the overall mystery made Alice in Wonderland hella traumatizing, so Alice sucks.
It's really funny you say that, when this is one of the... This is basically the norm for villains in Toaru. So it's gonna be interesting seeing your opinion on those randomizers.
What do you mean?
And it didn't feel that way to me. It just... because it provided a logical explanation of why she is the way she is. And also, fucked up backstory as always. So in my opinion, that didn't feel like pity. That just felt like a logical explanation and also added to her character. Because now it explains a lot of stuff that we were wondering about.
The girl got experimented on and was forcefully morphed to the spitting image of Alice in Alice in Wonderland, because the story was seen as another Bible, hence the another Bible part of her last name, and you kind of feel like that shit's awful to this girl. Ain't that like not a sense of, oh well, I pity the girl now, instead of being like, well, I kinda hate her. Or more in the case of my original accusation, she's hella evil. No, she's not, but I kinda like pity the girl, but I kinda am traumatized of the effectiveness, or how effective the story of Alice in Wonderland did to the world Toaru. Oh god.
Yeah. It was one insane magician being like, I gotta accomplish my goals by basically recreating Alice.
Yeah, that's awful. I had nightmares for like a day or two.
Yeah. I say in the pity sort of sense, because when her backstory makes sense and it's not like overly trying to emphasize, oh, pity her, or like how much bad stuff happened. Kamachi wrote it, but he didn't overly emphasize that part. So the more of, oh, you gotta pity her and not hate her, in my opinion, it just makes a logical conclusion. Okay, that makes sense. Of course, what happened to her is bad, but he didn't overemphasize it, so it does not feel like the absolute, oh, she's evil, now you gotta pity her. You can still like her or be indifferent to her. Or you can still hate her if you wanna, but still.
I just like her mystery more, because honestly, the backstory, and honestly, I still remember what I remember, but it just flew over my head. It kind of like having it split between so many volumes in that way kind of lost its effectiveness on me.
To each their own. That's why we're discussing this in the first place, from opinions. But anyways, we get the hype fight, and basically to have the world not distort as much by Alice's influence before this fight, finally Anna Springle finally summons Ivos, and he's like, okay, be my source of power, so that the distortion that Alice's influence is doing, that can be raised away. Or like, it'll get countered, so it'll get neutralized. So that was hype, and I was finally getting utilized by being the biggest jobber in history. Like the meme. Then we get to the absolute scene of even in death. Because he was distracted by the death and whole thing, it just comes full circle, and then it's like, I've done this thing many times and I'm gonna do it again. But this time knowing I am gonna die, for real, and there's no backing down. I'm still gonna save this person in front of me that had to go through all that, but I'm still gonna save them, even if they're trying to kill me. in their own animalistic behavior. And then the illustration and image of him holding Alice's head. He basically then said, "I don't want to see anyone suffering from even more misfortune than me. You got a problem with that?" Man, this was the start. I think, what was it? This is chapter 4, right? So was it part 5? Yeah, part 4. Around the end of part 4 and around the end of part 5, it hit me in the emotions and I started tearing up a bit as I was reading it out loud, because it added even more emotion when I was reading it out loud and trying to voice act them in a way. It was still pretty terrible, but it got the feelings flowing. So I basically just started crying, and I was trying to do a serious reading while crying, and this happened for the entirety of from chapter 3, part 4, 5 to the entire epilogue. Probably the most I've cried while reading a volume. So I was reading it as I was crying. Left a really deep impression on me, and the absolute fucking illustration of him standing, smiling, even in death. Just his absolute body's resolve to defy death in the way he could, even while he died. Just massive respect for this guy. And then we get the helicopter, where they're trying to save him. Oh, the amount of devastation. Misaki was more like accepting of the fact that she knew this was gonna happen in the situations that Toma had a tendency to involve himself, and in world-ending threats. But Misaka is gonna be the most surprised, and I really want to see, like, I truly hope that, okay, he comes back after volume 11, we know what's gonna happen after the Dante's Inferno arc. I just want to see, like, a really brief time skip and show the impact that it had on the characters in the overworld. If it doesn't do that, then automatically, from peak, it'll take away from the impact of his death. It needs to at least have that impact be felt throughout all the people that Kamija knows, at least in Academy City. If that doesn't happen, it's no longer peak. So it really heavily depends on GT12 doing some sort of thing like that. Because if it doesn't, I'm gonna be mad. And yeah, as a final nail in the coffin, Index saw his face. And then the line hits. Was her perfect memory a curse at times like this? Or was it a blessing because it allowed the boy to remain forever with her? Even if only in her head? Yeah, that I just started bawling. Like, no reserves, I just started bawling. And the final nail in the coffin being, eventually the frog-faced doctor slowly shook his head. January 6th, 11:58 p.m. That side-to-side motion said it all. The doctor who never gave up still said the words here. The transported patient has been confirmed deceased. There is nothing I can do when he's already dead. Kamija Toma never made it to January 7th, the final day of winter break. His death had already been confirmed. Man, I had to take like 10 minutes off this volume. I legit have to recover through the roller coaster I went through. Then after like 10 or 15 minutes, I read the afterword. It was cool. And then the ending, it was basically the perfect hooker after having this thing happen, because it then hooks into you the next volume. He wakes up. It's kind of like the Death World, and a Kingsford is there. And then she mentions the best thing of all, Helltoll. And seeing the freaking GT11 illustrations, I'm hyped. That's my opinion, and I rate it a solid 10 out of 10. Though it will go back down to, I think, 9.5. You know why? Because even if his impact is lessened, I'm still gonna love this volume for what it was and how it did things. So this is basically gonna be just below NT9 if the impact doesn't come through. in GT12. But anyways, that's all my thoughts. Enough ranting. Bedhead, how would you like to end this segment and this entire video?
This basically turned into the Matrix show because I really oversimplified and rushed everything that was really reflected well in DMs than my talking. So what's funny is that I reviewed well basically like GT 1 through 4.
Yep.
5 was like a thing. Yeah, I think I spoke well on 5 too. But then GT 6 through 10, you had the light. Because I kind of just I glossed over, to which I bet people will be very angry about 6 through 10, and then interjected into wrong volumes when you were talking. This is gonna be
it's fine.
very hard to cut down. I feel like this just might be the full length video with minor cuts, because I'm not gonna. There's no way to actively find good spots. Maybe. But we are Toaru fans, and this was a reflection of predominantly my journey through GT. But as a whole, GT, very great. I enjoyed becoming a light novel fan through GT, and the effect that Genesis Testament had on me as a reader, and seeing how Toaru still continues in this way, despite not even knowing what happens in NT, is great. I love seeing new characters and new ways that this universe continues to expand, and this is why I love Toaru. I am a diehard fan for this universe, despite its many fan servicey moments and qualms. I will love Toaru to death. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again.
Spoken like a true Toaru fan. But yeah, we made it. We did it. These 2 videos are going to be so long, you might as well just turn it into a full-length discussion.
Just the VODs.
It was, I mean. Yeah. It was just me, Bedhead, rambling on in GT 1 to 5, and then me rambling on in GT 6 to 10.
Yeah, GT's awesome. I cannot wait for the
continuing
the rando. So I can't wait to connect the dots there and make more people angry. So there's that.
Hey.